Today, we're introducing Roland's brand new GP-6, and this is a product that honestly has me pretty excited. The pianistic experience of playing this instrument has taken me with Roland product to honestly a pretty new level of musicality, of sensitivity, of something that I'm just not used to getting out of those instruments. This is really exciting to me, so I'm happy to be able to share it with you here today. We're going to dive into the tech specs, covering all of the changes to the action, the tone generator, and the speaker config. Let's get started on things right away. For people who are just coming into the digital piano world in 2023, it's a really exciting time to be a customer, to be a musician interacting with these instruments. It's to the point where every year, every 2 years, there's another instrument that comes out that just pushes the bar that much higher in terms of how enjoyable and how authentic and how sensitive digital pianos can truly be. And it happens every once in a while. You get one that not only impresses because of what it's replacing or what's come before it, but just straight up musically, it's so connective and it's so enjoyable to play. And before I knew about any of the technical specs, I had a chance to play this instrument, and instantly I knew something was different. And so for people who were familiar with the 607 or the 609, looking at this new GP-6, those pianos that came before it were great. They were well built, the cabinetry was top notch, and you know, for people who really enjoyed the Roland sound, the Roland touch, I mean, they were fantastic products. But there was something about the GP-6 that just felt more transparent, just felt more acoustic and more sensitive. And so that was the type of difference that I immediately heard and immediately felt on this. There was just this absence of that feeling like I was listening to it through a digital lens. Here is what the GP-6 is all about. Let's first start with what they've done with the action. Now, they have changed the name of the PHA-50 action, which this, in essence, still is. This is now the Piano Reality Premium keyboard. So they've sort of tried to unify all this different terminology into this new way of, this new nomenclature centered around piano reality. And so kind of Supernatural as a brand, as a trademark, kind of dies in a way with this model release. So this is using the Piano Reality Premium keyboard. But for those who are familiar with Roland, let's just think of this as an updated PHA-50. So we know we've got a lengthened key stick over, say, something like the PHA-4. But the big deal with the action, and this becomes really critical when we start talking about the tone generator on this, is they have totally rewritten the algorithms that interpret the sensor data, i.e. they have redone the tone curve, or the touch curve rather, interface between this and the tone engine. And the result is definitely a feeling like there's a lot more bandwidth in your mid to upper mid dynamic range, where sometimes on past Rolands, and this has always been why I've, for example, preferred Kawais for classical music particularly, is that forte to like mezzo forte up to the fortissimo range kind of felt like you rushed through that on a Roland, and you kind of almost created the sense that you were getting some stepping going on there. That's totally changed on the GP-6. There's just this like perfectly linear relationship between input and output now. And that extends right down to the two extremes as well. You know, your pianissimo or even your triple pianissimo, which this is very capable of. Right up to the most extreme, you know, triple fortes as well. So that different relationship between the key and the tone engine sets the stage for some pretty spectacular changes on the sound technology side. But just to finish off on the action before we get there, the other things that haven't changed about the PHA-50, you've got that center pin right in the back, which gives a really great sense of lateral stability. Also translates into really good durability down the road, because the PHA-50, even though in essence it's a plastic action, does not loosen up over time. Certainly not to the same degree as other plastic actions, because it doesn't have that same strain on the back hinge that most other plastic actions suffer from. So we've got the sensor, we've got that center pin, which, you know, people will know about if they're familiar with that action already. You've got the texture on the black key, you've got some texture on the white key. You also have escapement, meaning that tiny little hiccup about 2/3 of the way down the key, which now that you've got this, you know, even more accurate touch curve coming from those sensors, is something you can really take advantage of now. The PHA-50 is also nice because I think, even though there's a sense that it's a substantial mechanism behind it, it feels pretty middle of the road in terms of heaviness to lightness. It feels slightly heavier than what you get out of like the Grand Feel 3 on, say, the Kawais. It definitely feels slightly lighter than what you get out of Roland's own PHA-4, which, by the way, is also renamed. So it really kind of down the middle, and the pivot length is long enough that even for classical music, it still feels pretty natural even when you're fairly inside. Let's get now to the tone technology, because that to me is kind of the most exciting part about these new releases, the GP-6, and of course we were going to have the GP-9 with us very, very shortly. So this is an update to the tone engine, no longer Supernatural. This is now Piano Reality Premium, and it is an updated model. So this is a new algorithm based off a new sample. So it is a much more nuanced, much more balanced tone, in my opinion. They have now moved to a multi-channel tone production system, much in the same way as the Kawai Novus series did that, and that was one of the big innovations, was they went to a multi-channel system. Now we're here with a multi-channel system here. This is not being done through crossovers, stereo spreaders, or anything like that. This is actually multi-channel signal being generated by an updated algorithm, and that's being fed to 5 speakers. Now, it's a little confusing because when you look at it, you think that there are only 4 speakers, 3 in the back and 1 underneath. In actuality, one of those is actually just a tone port on the back. You've got 2 speakers upward facing. You've got the 3rd underneath facing down, and then you actually have 2 near field speakers that are activating the cabinet right in the front here. And what that gives you from a player's perspective is a much better sense of cabinet resonance, because it's not simulating it through like a sonic artifact through the speakers. It's actually creating true resonance through the cabinet. And it does make a difference. You can actually hear this. So just to recap, brand new algorithm based on a brand new sample. Then we've got multi-channel output to digital amplifiers, not analog amplifiers, and true multi-channel output out of a 5-speaker system. Now, in addition to that, they've also increased the complexity of some of the sort of secondary tones coming from the pedal. The damper systems and all of those. So they've updated those aspects of the tone as well. Damper on, damper off, as well as all of the resonance engines. And as I've said, the result is something super connective. And I keep using the word transparent, but it's so rare to be on a digital piano where the sound being delivered fools your ear into thinking you're hearing something acoustic. Now, outside of the acoustic piano experience on here, you have a fairly typical complement of other Roland sounds. E-piano sounds, organ sounds, strings, and all of that. And once you're out of the acoustic, it's no longer modeling, which means for people who are new to this lingo, modeling is where the computer is creating the sound from scratch using an algorithm. So there's actually no analog component to the sound replay at all. Once you get out of there, then you are into more sample-based instruments. And we all know them, we all love them. The 1976 suitcase. I'm not going to go through all of them. But all I will say is that there's not a huge update or change that I can detect anyway to any of that other stuff. Really, the focus here has been on the updates to the acoustic piano. Let's talk about some of the other features and changes to the GP-6 before we wrap up this look. They have changed the interface, and they have really gotten rid of virtually all of the buttons. This seems to be very in vogue right now companies going with a very sleek look that kind of makes all the buttons disappear. And when the instrument is on like this, you can see all of the different parts of the interface where you're supposed to be interacting with it. However, there is a way to actually turn that off and have that virtually disappear. So if you quickly press the power button, you have the option of turning the panel off by just pressing it once more. And it looks as though the instrument is off. The only indication that it isn't is that your power button is still illuminated. And then you can play the instrument without any of the distraction of the display. And you can get that back on just by pressing the power once more. The functionality is otherwise fairly similar to what you would get out of past Roland products. You've got a really large library of songs that you can play through, mostly classical. So you can use this kind of as a piece of entertainment in the corner of your room if you want to. Basic features like the metronome and onboard rhythms. This will connect with the Roland piano app, so through there you can have all kinds of other functionalities such as rhythms that really activate through the piano app on its own. And then you've got much more convenient ways of quickly affecting and customizing the sound. This I really like about the interface. So you've got a little icon for a stage that takes you right into the ambience control. Then you've got one that has a little keyboard icon that lets you get through really all of the most pertinent edits that you would want to make to the keyboard, such as the keyboard transpose, key touch, hammer response. Then you've got tuning controls, so you've got your temperament, and this is also how you get into Piano Tone Edit, aka Piano Designer. So once you're in there, you have a lot of the same controls that you'll be familiar with past Roland engines. Lid up or down, key noise, hammer noise, duplex scale, all of your resonances, your soundboard type, your damper modeling, which is something that is new, and then your single note tuning, volume, and character. So just like a lot of the past top models of Roland, tons of opportunities to get in there and create your own tone, but I haven't really had to do much to get an extremely satisfying piano playing experience out of the GP-6. Cabinets on this have been updated a little bit. There's a couple of extra little bevels here and there. I'm really impressed with how stable and easy to assemble the overall cabinet is. The legs have gone to a steel leg. They are as solid as a rock. I think you're going to get a ton of longevity out of an instrument like this. So that is nice to see. And finally, this is going to be available in both the ebony polish, as you're seeing here, as well as polished white. So here are some final thoughts from me. It's probably pretty obvious that musically this instrument has definitely impressed me. And I now understand why some of that new technology is delivering a pretty meaningfully different musical connection to me than some past Roland models in this category and maybe even some categories slightly below. And when I look at the price of this and compare the speaker performance, the overall musical effect that this has on me, this feels like a reasonable premium that you are paying for the grand cabinet and the grand look. If this technology, this kind of speaker system, this overall just musical experience wasn't in a grand case, I think at most you'd be probably shaving off somewhere in the $2,000 range. And to get premium black polyester, that kind of shaped cabinetry, it's not the cheapest thing for manufacturers to actually do. So the value feels reasonable to me. The technology is exciting to me. But most of all, for people who are looking for a low maintenance option that is going to feel pretty darn close to a baby grand piano of about the same price, with none of the maintenance challenges, this I think is going to be a really exciting option to seriously consider. So we're going to leave you with a speaker test. We got really great feedback that people appreciated that aspect of a couple of the past reviews. So we're going to put on some Chopin, let you sample straight out of our overhead microphones exactly what I was hearing about where my ears were. And otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Stu Harrison, and we will see you again for another review shortly here on Miriam Pianos.